Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, Indian officials briefed the monitoring team of the UN Security Council's 1267 Sanctions Committee on the activities of the Resistance Front, the group behind the Pahalgam terror attack. While India has been pursuing the listing of the TRF, which is believed to be a front for the UN-proscribed Lashkar since 2023, by UN as a global terror group. Government has renewed its efforts after the Pahalgam massacre of tourists. We'll bring you all the details on that front.
Also on World DNA, Vladimir Putin is not scheduled to attend talks in Turkey with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Kremlin has named a team for the first direct Russia-Ukraine contacts, but the Russian president will not be a part of it. The Istanbul negotiations would be the first direct peace talks since discussions in the first weeks of the conflict, which started off in 2022. We will get you all the developments on that front as well. Let's start with the headlines.
Indian delegation briefs the UNSC's 1267 Sanctions Committee that lists UN terrorists over Pakistan's role in supporting terrorism. Committee's monitoring team brief on Lashkar-e-Toiba's role in the Pahalgam terror attack.
Hundreds of Indian travelers are cancelling plans to visit Turkey and Azerbaijan following their support for Pakistan in its conflict with India. In Delhi, JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, has cancelled an agreement with Turkey.
At least 10 militants killed in a gunfight with Assam Rifles in Manipur. Army's Eastern Command says operation was launched in Chandel district based on specific intelligence on movement of armed cadres.
Russian President Vladimir Putin to not join direct talks with Ukraine in Turkey as Kremlin announces delegation of negotiators for Istanbul.
Footage shows the moment an airstrike hit people outside a European hospital in Gaza's southern city of Khan Yunis. Gaza medic says at least 80 people have been killed in Israeli strikes across Gaza in the last 2 days.
Sean Diddy Combs, his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura, testifies that the hip-hop mogul raped her in 2018 after they ended their more than decade-long relationship. She also said Combs agreed to a $20 million settlement for a civil lawsuit.
Asian markets slipped after earlier gains on easing U.S.-China trade tensions. Japan's Nikkei fell nearly 1%. South Korea and Australia also saw losses, while Hong Kong futures pointed lower. Analysts warn of fresh volatility from fiscal policy and weak U.S. data.
Real Madrid delay Barcelona's coronation as champions of Spain. Jacobo Ramon scores the 95th minute winner to snatch a 2-1 victory against Mallorca.
Now, India says its Operation Sindoor has reshaped both the geopolitical and strategic landscape of South Asia.
Now, as The response to the Pahalgam attack, it stood firmly on legal and moral grounds, and history will remember it as a principled and calibrated retaliation. India's Press Information Bureau recently released a note on Operation Sindoor detailing India's strategic clarity and calculated force during this operation. It says that the campaign was not merely a military campaign but a multi-dimensional assertion of India's sovereignty, resolve and global standing. By targeting terror networks and their state sponsors, India sent an unambiguous message. Terrorism will be met with a swift and proportionate response, irrespective of borders or diplomatic complexities.
Meanwhile, a report based on satellite images says that India gained a clear advantage in targeting Pakistan's military facilities during the confrontation. As per the New York Times, high-resolution satellite imagery from before and after the strikes shows clear damage to Pakistan's facilities by Indian attacks.
The reports say that the four-day military confrontation was the most expansive fighting between the two countries since the 1971 war. Both sides used drones and missiles to test each other's air defenses and hit military facilities. It added that satellite imagery indicates that while the attacks were widespread, the damage was far more contained than claimed and appeared mostly inflicted by India on Pakistani facilities.
The report said that visuals show clear damage to what looks like a hangar at Buladi Air Base. The base is located less than 100 miles from Karachi.
As per the report, and perhaps the most sensitive military target was this one that India struck, which was Noor Khan, the Noor Khan Air Base. The base is within a roughly 15-mile range of the Pakistani Army's headquarters, the office of the country's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and just a short distance from the unit that oversees and protects Pakistan's nuclear arsenal.
Now, as per the reports, the Indian Armed Military said it had particularly targeted the runways and other facilities at some of Pakistan's key air bases, and satellite images show the damage.
Now, the report further said that the satellite images of the sites Pakistan claimed to have hit are limited and so far do not clearly show any kind of damage, referencing the Pakistani officials' claim of destroying India's Udhampur air base. The NYT report said that an image from the 12th of May does not appear to show any kind of damage and all military installations of India are fully functional and operational.
No damage? Meanwhile, a team of Indian officials are engaging with monitoring team of the UN Security Council's 1267 Sanctions Committee in New York. The committee, which lists UN terrorists, is being briefed about Pakistan's role in supporting terrorism, as well as the activities of Lashkar and its proxy, the Resistance Front. And well, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani sent us this report. Listen in.
An Indian technical team is here in New York for high-level counterterrorism consultations at the United Nations. The delegation is engaging with the monitoring team of the 1267 Sanctions Committee, which tracks terrorist entities like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. The team is also meeting with officials from the UN Office of Counterterrorism and the Counterterrorism Committee Executive Directorate. This visit signals India's renewed push for coordinated global action against terrorism, particularly cross-border threats, as it works to strengthen sanctions implementation and intelligence sharing with key partners at the United Nations. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
US President Donald Trump has said that he doesn't want nuclear talks in Iran to take any kind of a violent course.
In his visit to Qatar, Trump reiterated his commitment to achieving a peaceful resolution to Iran's nuclear program, stressing that the responsibility now lies with Iran to engage in negotiations.
You're also working with us very closely with respect to negotiating a deal with Iran, which is the far friendlier course that you would see. I mean, we have two courses. There's only two courses. There aren't three or four or five. There's two. There's a friendly and a non-friendly, and the non-friendly is a violent course, and I don't want that.
His comments came as Washington issued sanctions on Wednesday to target Iranian efforts to domestically manufacture components for ballistic missiles. And Trump said he wants to see Iran thrive and he is counting on Qatar to help pave the way.
And I hope you can help me with the Iran situation because it's a perilous situation and we want to do the right thing. We want to do something that's going to save maybe millions of lives because things like that get started and they get out of control.
In response to Trump's criticism of Tehran during his Gulf tour, however, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian made it clear that Iran will not bow to any bully.
We will not bow down to any bully. This is not just my word, but all women and youth, elites, and those who are zealous will not bow down to any power. For me, martyrdom and death are much sweeter than dying in bed. Does he want to scare me? This is something that is in our Iranian nature.
Fresh talks between the Iranian and US negotiators to resolve disputes over Tehran's nuclear program ended in Oman on Sunday, with further negotiations planned.
In Qatar capital, Donald Trump attended a state dinner hosted by Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The dinner, held in Lusail Palace, was preceded by a meet and greet with US and Qatar officials, including Tesla's Elon Musk.
During the state dinner, the Qatari Emir asked the US president to use American pressure to bring peace to Gaza, where Israel has renewed its military operations.
#1 export of fertilizer. Qatar brings the channels, the access, and the credibility. The United States brings power, leverage, and global weight. If we act together, we have a real shot at ending the bloodshed and restoring regional confidence.
After a state dinner, Donald Trump, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, and Qatar's Emir attended a signing event that marked the passing of World Cup hosting duties from Qatar, which held it in 2022, to the United States, which is hosting in 2026, along with Canada and Mexico.
Earlier, state carrier Qatar Airways signed a deal to buy jets from US manufacturer Boeing. Trump said that the deal was worth $200 billion and included 160 jets. Trump and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Al Thani witnessed the signing ceremony.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump held a face-to-face meeting with Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa in Saudi Arabia.
And it is the first meeting of leaders of the U.S. and Syria in 25 years. It comes in the backdrop of big announcements of the U.S. looking to normalize ties with Syria.
Now, Trump praised Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, a one-time al-Qaeda leader, who spent years in prison after being captured in Iraq. The U.S. president said Syria's interim president has the potential to unite Syria, calling Ahmed al-Sharaa a tough and strong leader.
Now, in his meeting with the Syrian president, Trump asked Damascus to normalize ties with Israel after he offered a major boost to the war-ravaged country by announcing the lifting of sanctions. U.S. president said that Washington is exploring normalizing relations with Syria's new government.
I am also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful. And I spoke to Mohammed, and I spoke to our friend from Turkey, who we just spoke to also by phone now. But felt very strongly that this would give them a chance. It's not going to be easy anyway, so it gives them a good, strong chance. And it was my honor to do so.
Trump also asked Sharaa to deport Palestinian militants and take control of camps for captured Islamic State group fighters. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is scheduled to meet with his Syrian counterpart, Foreign Minister Assad al-Shaibani, in Turkey later this week.
Turkey and Saudi Arabia have also advocated reconciliation with Syria. However, the move puts Trump at odds with Israel, which has forced pessimism over Ahmed al-Shara and ramped up strikes to degrade the longtime adversary's military capabilities.
Israel's military has issued yet another evacuation order for Palestinians living in northern Gaza.
And this is after 19 months of war that Israel is firmly on course to continue in Gaza, a move that is drawing concern, especially from the families of the hostages in Gaza.
Now, the visuals on your screens, they show the exact moment when an airstrike hit people outside the European hospital in southern Gaza. The Hamas-run health ministry said that the IDF bombardment across the Palestinian territory since Wednesday rose to 80, with 59 killed in northern Gaza.
Palestinian civil defense personnel recovered casualties from under the rubble in the aftermath of an Israeli strike that hit Nasser medical complex, that is one of the largest healthcare facilities in Gaza.
There's a large number of injured people who were already injured before the strike, but now have more severe injuries. A number of patients inside the departments were martyred. The department is almost fully damaged. There is no equipment in the department.
As Israel continues its blockade of aid into Gaza, United Nations has warned that Gaza's population of around 2.1 million Palestinians is at a critical risk of famine and faces extreme levels of food insecurity.
The IPC, that is a global initiative by UN agencies, aid groups, released a report stating 93% of Gaza's population are living through high levels of acute food insecurity, including over 200,000 experiencing catastrophic levels.
Israel is deliberately and unashamedly imposing inhumane conditions on civilians in the occupied Palestinian territory. For more than 10 weeks, nothing has entered Gaza, no food, medicine, water, or tents.
However, Israel's foreign minister denied the UN report, saying there is no famine in Gaza.
There is no famine in Gaza Strip. It is simply not true. Speaking about today, this is the current situation, and we are monitoring the situation all the time to see whether something must be changed or not.
Israel renewed its military operations in Gaza in mid-March. It has prevented food, medication, and other aid from entering Gaza for 70 days, saying it is putting pressure on Hamas to release its remaining hostages.
After Zelensky challenged Putin for direct talks to end the ongoing war and meet him in Turkey for negotiation talks, the Kremlin has now confirmed that the Russian president will not be attending this meeting.
Well, Moscow has instead designated a lower-level team for negotiations. The delegation includes an advisor to the president, a top diplomat, and senior military and intelligence officials.
Putin's advisor, Vladimir Medinsky, and Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin are part of the delegation. The duo took part in the last talks held between the two sides in 2022 in the weeks following Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Zelensky had challenged Putin to meet him in person at the talks, with U.S. President Donald Trump also urging the Kremlin leader to come to the negotiating table.
Trump has sent U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to participate in these talks, and earlier in the week, Zelensky said that Putin's absence would be a clear sign that he was not genuinely interested in peace. He blamed Russia for starting the war and added that he was ready for any format of negotiations with Moscow.
Відповіді на всі питання.
The answers to all questions about this war, why it started, why it continues, all these answers lie in Moscow. How the war will end depends on the world. Ukraine is ready for any format of negotiations, and we are not afraid of meetings. Tomorrow, in Turkey, glory to Ukraine.
Не боїмося зустрічі.
Zelensky further said that a dignified and just end to the war is needed and that it is important to mount pressure to make Moscow stop thinking that the world can still wait.
The only one dragging out the war, the only one responsible for both the start and the continuation of the war, is Russia. The entire world understands this clearly. Pressure is essential. Pressure to make Moscow stop thinking that the world can still wait. An end to the war is needed, a dignified and just one. Russia talks a lot about direct negotiations, but when it comes down to it, they hide.
In a phone call on Wednesday, Brazilian President Lula da Silva urged Putin to attend the meeting. European leaders also pressed Putin to travel to Turkey to meet Zelensky and have threatened Moscow of new sanctions.
Now, this is the first direct Russia-Ukraine contact on their conflict in more than 3 years.
Even well into the fourth year of the Russia-Ukraine war, the guns are showing no signs of going silent.
No longer believing that there is any time to lose waiting for peace, many, including those fighting the war, are going ahead with their weddings. Near the front line, fellow soldiers gathered in a wedding hall in the Ukrainian city of Sloviansk to applaud Anna and Pavlo Chernobyl, exchanging their wedding vows given the circumstances. Celebrating with friends and family was ruled out, but Pavlo's comrades in the Azov Brigade did attend the wedding.
Because we don't see the point in waiting, and it's not the time to do it later, after the war. We immediately decided to just buy a dress, rings, submit an application, and do it all, so as not to celebrate much. Just the two of us. Well, there were guests, of course, but that's secondary. So we immediately decided not to delay this.
It's much easier, in my opinion, to experience war with brothers in arms than alone. And the wedding also, by the way. It was nice. It's a pity that not all brothers in arms live to see this time. There are many fatalities.
With the Russia-Ukraine peace talks slated in Istanbul, Putin has not responded to Zelensky's call for face-to-face talks. As we mentioned earlier, the Kremlin spokesperson merely stated that the Russian delegation will be waiting for the Ukrainian counterpart in Turkey on the 15th of May. And Perus Prime Minister Gustavo Adrianzon has quit ahead of a no-confidence vote.
His resignation comes amid a deadly wave of gang violence and growing public anger. The 58-year-old leader was the most trusted aide of President Dina Boluarte. He handed over his resignation to the president just hours before he was due to face a no-confidence vote in parliament, pushing Peru deeper into political turmoil.
Today, I am obliged to present to you my irrevocable resignation from the position of President of the Council of Ministers with which you honored me.
President will now have to appoint a new cabinet. According to the Constitution of Peru, Adrianzon's exit automatically forces the resignation of the entire cabinet. Peru is currently under a state of emergency with soldiers deployed to combat extortion gangs. On the other hand, protests have become nearly a daily occurrence. The public anger erupted after extortion gangs killed a journalist and 13 mine workers.
Adrianzon was Boluarte's third prime minister in less than 3 years. He had taken office in March 2024 after his predecessor quit over an influence peddling scandal. He faced fierce criticism from lawmakers across party lines over the government's failure to tackle a deadly surge in gang violence.
President Boluarte is also facing calls to step down from her position as her government's popularity has plummeted due to multiple scandals, protests and rising street violence. With no political party of her own, Boluarte governs thanks to a fragile right-wing coalition in Congress.
Our French prosecutors are investigating after a masked gang tried to kidnap the daughter of a crypto businessman in Perus.
The kidnapping attempt in broad daylight was foiled, and this is at least the third violent attack targeting wealthy crypto players and their families in recent months. The incident took place in Paris' 11th district when 4 masked men tried to abduct the couple and their child. The video footage shows 3 masked men jumping out of a van and trying to force the woman and her child into the vehicle. They beat the woman's partner, who tried to intervene, and police said the woman resisted, grabbing one of the attackers' handguns and throwing it away. When the victim's screams attracted passerbys, the gang jumped into the van and drove away. The woman is the daughter of the chief executive and the co-founder of Paymium, a French cryptocurrency exchange platform. The attempted abduction is the latest in a series of violent incidents targeting executives in France's crypto industry. All 3 have suffered light injuries and were taken to the hospital.
Now, after the latest violent kidnapping in Paris, French Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau has said he will be meeting cryptocurrency professionals about their security and how to prevent future kidnapping attempts. It's now time for a quick short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. Jyotsna and I will be back with you on the other side. Pakistan has confirmed the death of Squadron leader Usman Yusuf in the aftermath of India's Operation Sindoor. As per official statements from Pakistan, 11 military personnel died during Operation Sindoor. We'll bring you the full report.
Also on the other side, Olympic champion Neeraj Chopra has been conferred with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel by the Territorial Army. The javelin superstar was recruited by the Indian Army in 2016 as a junior commissioned officer. We'll get you more on the other side. Stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet as I demystify tokenization for you, only on WION.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet as we yield the power of tokenization only on WION.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
A gunfight is underway between India's security forces and terrorists in South Kashmir's Tral area.
Indian delegation briefs UNSC's 1267 Sanctions Committee that lists UN terrorists over Pakistan's role in supporting terrorism. Committee's monitoring team brief on Lashkar-e-Toiba's role in Pahalgam terror attack.
At least 10 militants killed in a gunfight with Assam Rifles in Manipur. Army's Eastern Command says operation was launched in Chanda district based on specific intelligence on movement of armed cadres.
Russian President Vladimir Putin to not join direct talks with Ukraine in Turkey as Kremlin announces delegation of negotiators for Istanbul.
Footage shows the moment an airstrike hit people outside a European hospital in Gaza's southern city of Khan Yunis. Gaza medics say at least 80 people have been killed in Israeli strikes across Gaza in last 2 days.
Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura testifies that the hip-hop mogul raped her in 2018 after they ended their more than a decade-long relationship. She also said Combs agreed to a $20 million settlement to the civil lawsuit.
U.S. stock futures dipped overnight after the S&P 500 logged a third straight gain, boosted by easing U.S.-China trade tensions. The Nasdaq climbed, the S&P edged up, but the Dow closed lower.
Real Madrid delay Barcelona's coronation as champions of Spain. Jacobo Ramon scores a 95th minute winner to snatch a 2-1 victory against Mallorca.
Pakistan has confirmed the death of a squadron leader in the aftermath of India's Operation Sindoor.
But what it refuses to say and continues to dodge is this, that did it lose any of its fighter jets? Did India down Pakistani aircraft? Squadron leaders are no foot soldiers, they are elite Air Force officers. That is what must be understood here. Commanders who lead formations of aircraft, they oversee critical combat operations and they make high-stakes tactical decisions in the heat of battle.
Now, their death is rarely accidental. So when a squadron leader dies in an active operation, chances of an aircraft being involved are high. And when a country confirms such a loss but remains tight-lipped about its air fleet, it begs the question, what is Pakistan hiding?
According to official statements from Pakistan, 11 military personnel died during Operation Sindoor. Among them was squadron leader Usman Yusuf. But nowhere does it give any explanation of the circumstances leading to his death, just a name and a rank and a glaring omission.
Indian strikes last week struck Pakistan's major air bases and airfield, including airfields such as Sargodha Airfield, Chaklala Airfield, that is Nur Khan, Sukhoi Airfield, Bulari Airfield, Jacobabad Airfield. And also Pak air bases, such as the Skardu Air Base, Murde Air Base, Rafiki Air Force Base, and the Sialkot Air Base.
In many of these air bases and airfields, F-16s and JF-17 jets were stationed, American and Chinese jets that Pakistan heavily relies on. In combat, according to Indian military sources, nearly 20% of Pakistan Air Force infrastructure now lies in ruins. That is 1/5 of their air power. Satellite images on your screens right now, they were released by the Indian Army, and they give the visual proof. They also show the extent of the damage, site by site, caused by Indian strikes on Pakistani air bases.
Air Marshal A.K. Bharti, the Director General of Air Operations of the Indian Air Force, confirmed that several Pakistani jets were shot down during Operation Sindoor.
Their planes were prevented from coming inside our border. All right. So we do not have the wreckage with us, but definitely we have downed a few planes. Numbers, we would not like to hazard a guess out here. Okay. I have the numbers, okay, and we are getting into the technical details of it to establish it. So I would not like to put a figure at this time, but definitely there are losses from their side which we have inflicted.
Now we return to the original question. Why would Pakistan confirm the death of an officer of such high rank but not acknowledge the downing of a fighter jet?
Revealing the loss of jets, especially American-supplied F-16s or its own Chinese-influenced JF-17s, will expose the vulnerability of its air defenses and, worse, reveal just how successful India's strikes were. Now the question is, how long can Pakistan keep up this narrative? Because satellite images confirm widespread damage, and India has acknowledged the downing of enemy aircraft.
Well, Indians are now cancelling holidays in popular resorts, especially in Turkey and Azerbaijan, after these two countries openly supported Pakistan during its recent conflict.
Now, Turkey and Azerbaijan, popular budget holiday destinations for Indians, had issued statements backing Islamabad. A nationwide campaign to ban goods from Turkey has also been gaining momentum in India.
After India's strikes targeting terror bases in Pakistan, President Erdogan of Turkey had said that Turkey will continue to back the brotherly people of Pakistan, quote-unquote, in good and bad times. Now, according to reports, Turkey also supplied more than 350 drones and deployed military operatives to support Pakistan during its 4-day conflict. Those drones were aimed at civilians and military sites inside India.
Now, in the light of Istanbul's military help for Pakistan, Udaipur, India's largest marble export hub, has halted imports from Turkey. Turkey supplies 70% of India's foreign marble. Apple traders in Pune have also stopped buying Turkish produce and are shifting to local and alternative sources like Himachal and Iran.
As per reports, India imports goods worth over 1,200 crore rupees from Turkey annually. That includes a significant share of fruits like apples. Indian booking firms are reporting large cancellations for holidays in Turkey and Azerbaijan. A spokesperson for Make My Trip told Reuters that bookings for Azerbaijan and Turkey decreased by 60%, while cancellations have surged by 250% during this same period.
Make My Trip said the platform had seen a 22% rise in cancellations for Turkey and 30% for Azerbaijan due to recent geopolitical tensions. Now, travels have switched to Georgia, Serbia and Greece, and as well as Thailand and Vietnam for their trips. In other global news, the U.S. State Department deflected a question on the Bangladeshi government's nexus with Pakistani terror group Lashkar-e-Taiba.
And this is after a law advisor to Muhammad Yunus held a meeting with a Lashkar-e-Taiba operative in the capital of Bangladesh, Dhaka. During the U.S. State Department press briefing in Washington, D.C., the reporter had asked a pointed question about the meeting, which highlighted and claimed Bangladesh government's growing proximity with the terror groups and increasing political support in the country for violence in Kashmir.
How does you, as a State Department, view the interim Bangladeshi government role in the fostering radical ideologies and enabling terrorism following reports of the law advisor Dr. Asif Nazrul meeting with Lashkar, a Taiba operative Harun Izhar, and growing support of violence in Kashmir by political and religious leaders? They met in the ministry in Bangladesh.
So again, taking a step back, I'll reiterate what has been reiterated from this podium before. We value our partnership with the people of Bangladesh, spanning more than 50 years. We remain committed to deepening our partnership by working with the interim government. And I already commented on your other question there, but nothing further to add.
This comes after the meeting between Bangladesh government's legal advisor Asif Nazrul and LET's Bangladesh module chief Harun Izhar sent shockwaves across South Asia. The meeting amid the Pahalgam terror attack carried out by Lashkar's proxy TRF has raised eyebrows.
Bangladesh politician and the son of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Sajid Wajid, had shared this report that quoted the military intelligence sources in Dhaka, saying the meeting had taken place inside the Ministry of Law.
Harun Izhar has long been on the radar of counter-terror agencies as he faces over 25 charges related to terrorism in Bangladesh. He was arrested in 2009 in Chittagong for his involvement in a terror plot targeting the Indian High Commission and U.S. Embassy in Dhaka. In 2013, LET terrorist Izhar was yet again taken in custody following a deadly grenade explosion at his madrasa and killed 3 people. According to reports, Harun Izhar developed close ties with Lashkar-e-Taiba leaders during his studying in Pakistan. He also has strong ties with Hifazat-e-Islam, a hardline Islamist group in Bangladesh. Izhar radicalized several Hifazat-linked individuals under the guise of faction named Manhaj. In 2024, he was seen in video leading a mob of radicalized students pledging allegiance to launch jihad against India and Myanmar.
What is even more shocking here is that Bangladesh's legal advisor Asif Nazrul, around his alleged meeting with Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist Harun Izhar, brazenly accused Prime Minister and top Indian leaders of being involved in the Pahalgam attack.
Now, Bangladesh is currently gripped by a political crisis as the interim government under Muhammad Yunus escalated its crackdown on former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's Awami League. On Monday, the government issued a Gazette notification imposing a ban on all activities of the Awami League and its associated organizations.
The ban was implemented after a series of sit-in protests organized by Hasnat Abdullah of the National Citizen Party, which exerted pressure on the interim government to act against the Awami League. These demonstrations garnered support from radical Islamic leaders, including Lashkar's Bangladesh module chief Harun Izhar.
Now, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party, PTI, as well as children, are ramping up efforts and appeals to international community to secure his release.
Imran Khan has been in jail since July of 2024. In a recent interview, Imran Khan's sons, Suleiman and Qasim, urged global efforts to free him from jail. Suleiman and Qasim are born to Khan and his former wife Jemima and live with their mother in the United Kingdom.
Now, speaking to social media influencer Myro Nofal, Qasim and Suleiman referred to the inhuman conditions of the former Prime Minister that he is experiencing in jail. They said they wanted to speak to U.S. President Donald Trump to figure out a way to release Imran Khan and ensure basic human rights. Calling the U.S. President the most powerful leader in the world, they called on democratic governments to make efforts for their father's release. Mario Nofal YouTube channel was the source of this information.
Imran Khan was first removed from office through a no-confidence motion in 2022. Khan then launched a political movement against Shehbaz Sharif-led government in Pakistan. Subsequently, there was a spate of legal cases against him which led to his arrest in August of last year. The PTI has so far tried to secure his release through multiple forums, but its efforts have not borne fruit. Now, Imran Khan's sons, who largely remain out of public eye, have taken up the cause.
The Trump administration has so far refused to get involved in the matter. The State Department previously said Pakistani courts will determine the decisions regarding legal actions against Imran Khan.
And the White House hailed Trump's deals with Qatar worth over $243.5 billion.
The White House added the latest deals set the stage for a larger $1.2 trillion economic commitment with the Gulf state. The Qatar deal comes a day after Trump boasted about Saudi Arabia's planned $600 billion investment in American goods and services. Qatar is the president's second stop in West Asia. The deals include a $96 billion plan by Qatar Airways to acquire Boeing aircraft, a $1 billion agreement for Raytheon to provide counter-drone capabilities to Qatar, and also a nearly $2 billion agreement for Qatar to acquire MQ-9B drones.
The White House said the landmark deals will drive innovation and prosperity for generations, bolster American manufacturing and technological leadership, and put America on the path to a new golden age.
Trump has focused much of his energy on the trip in securing investment dollars while praising Gulf states for seeking a deeper partnership with the U.S. Trump's take so far has fallen short of his ambitions for an even bigger haul. The president had floated the possibility of securing $1 trillion investment pledges from Saudi companies. On Tuesday, he said the two nations would work towards that goal.
The White House announced that Qatar Airways had inked a $96 billion plan to acquire as many as 210 Boeing 787 Dreamliners and 777X aircraft. The White House cast the buy as the largest ever wide-body order and the largest ever for the 787s. And that is good news for the US for sure, and plane maker Boeing being propelled by a powerful endorsement from President Trump. A year after Boeing slogged through a deep executive shakeup and prolonged existential crisis, the US plane maker landed its biggest ever aircraft order.
Donald Trump is the first president in U.S. history to make an official state visit to Qatar. President Trump also announced the historic $1.2 trillion economic commitment with Qatar during his visit. The headline deal, a $96 billion agreement for Qatar Airways to purchase up to 210 Boeing jets, the largest wide-body aircraft order in Boeing history. U.S. engineering giant Parsons also secured 30 major projects worth up to $97 billion. And in a strategic move, both nations signed a statement of intent that could bring $38 billion in upgrades to Al Udeid Air Base and Qatar's maritime and air defenses. The White House is calling this a milestone in U.S.-Qatar relations as President Trump hopes to coin this trip as a deal-making and peacemaking one. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION The World is One.
Well, moving on, China pauses export curbs on rare earth and other military-grade products and technology aimed at 28 U.S. corporations on Wednesday.
This was part of the temporary trade truce between the US and China, which was agreed during the weekend. Beijing's move comes after US President Donald Trump hailed a total reset of bilateral ties late last week. The US and China agreed to temporarily reduce tariffs slapped against each other's exports. This was the first significant de-escalation in the trade spat. In a statement, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce said export curbs will be temporarily lifted starting on Wednesday and continuing for 90 days.
China had used rare earth exports as a weapon in the trade war with Trump. Now, that was in retaliation to Trump's reciprocal tariffs on China on the so-called Liberation Day. On April 4th, China barred exports of 7 rare earths to 16 U.S. entities, and on April 19th, 12 more U.S. businesses were included. The Ministry of Commerce is also suspending a trade and investment ban against 17 U.S. companies.
Well, what really happens when one dies? For millennia, religions have offered answers. Different faiths speak of the Atma, an eternal soul that transcends death. Christianity promises the soul to be united with Christ.
While meanwhile, Buddhism teaches rebirth. Well, science, long silent on the soul, may now have a clue, captured not in scripture, but in photons. Here's the next report, tells you more.
What really happens when we die? Is it truly the end? Or just a transition? Do we leave behind only a body or something more? Something science has never been able to pin down. For centuries, religions, mystics and philosophers have spoken of a soul, a vital spark, a light that leaves the body. Now, science might just have caught it in the act. A groundbreaking study by the University of Calgary reveals the visible presence of what one may call the soul. The study suggests that living beings, including humans, emit a faint, ultra-weak glow of visible light. Not an aura, not superstition. This is real, measurable light. And here's the stunning part. This glow vanishes the moment we die. Researchers focused upon live mice and plant leaves, capturing their subtle glow. After euthanasia, the light faded rapidly, leaving only darkness. This life glow isn't mystical, it's a measurable phenomenon tied to oxidative stress and energy production. Yet its disappearance at death eerily mirrors ancient belief about the soul departing the body. This light has even been seen in plants, animals, and even bacteria. The implications are stunning. A force within us vanishing at death. Could this be the scientific trace of the soul? The debate is wide open, but the glow is real. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Olympic champion Neeraj Chopra has been honored by the Indian Army. The javelin ace has been conferred with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel by the Territorial Army.
The Ministry of Defence made the announcement on Wednesday and confirmed that Neeraj Chopra had become a Lieutenant Colonel on the 9th of May. Neeraj earlier held the rank of Subedar Major. The javelin superstar was recruited by the Indian Army in 2016 as a junior commissioned officer. He is part of the Indian Army's Mission Olympics wing, which was established in 2001. After his historic gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics, he was handed the Param Vishisht Seva Medal, the highest peacetime medal of the Indian Army.
Now, Chopra has also been awarded the Padma Shri, which is India's fourth highest civilian honor. Other Indian sportspersons who have been conferred with the same honorary rank are fellow Olympic champion Abhinav Bindra and former Indian cricket captain MS Dhoni and Kapil Dev.
27-year-old Neeraj Chopra will be in action on Friday at the Doha Diamond League. Remember, the inaugural edition of the Neeraj Chopra Classic was due to be held on the 24th of May in Bengaluru, but was cancelled due to the cross-border tensions between India and Pakistan. Italian fashion duo Dolce and Gabbana have brought their bold vision to Rome.
Now, the designer duo has unveiled an immersive exhibition that blurs the line between couture and art. More about it in our next report. Take a look.
The Dal Cuore Alemani, Dolce & Gabbana exhibition is a tribute to the creative universe of the two designers, the two couturiers, but also to craftsmanship.
Fatto a mano.
The fact that the exhibition is arriving in Rome is a very, very important symbolic moment, because Rome is the capital of the arts. This is where centuries have unfolded, with the greatest artists. And so, the exhibition pays tribute to many of these figures, such as Raphael or Caravaggio, but also to Greek and Roman art.
And with that, we call a wrap to this edition of World DNA. But do stay tuned. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching Beyond World is One. Stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet as we yield the power of tokenization only on Beyond.
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. I'm Dolce. Let's begin with the headlines. A gunfight is underway between India's security forces and terrorists in South Kashmir's Tral area. Indian delegation briefs UNSC's 1267 Sanctions Committee that lists UN terrorists over Pakistan's role in supporting terrorism. Committee's monitoring team brief on Lashkar-e-Toiba's role in Pahalgam terror attack. At least 10 militants killed in a gunfight with Assam Rifles in Manipur. Army's Eastern Command says operation was launched in Chandel district based on specific intelligence on movement of armed cadres. Russian President Vladimir Putin to not join direct talks with Ukraine and Turkey as Kremlin announces delegation of negotiators for Istanbul. Footage shows the moment an airstrike hit people outside the European hospital in Gaza's southern city of Khan Yunis. Gaza medics say at least 80 people have been killed in Israeli strikes across Gaza in the last 2 days. Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura testifies that the hip-hop mogul raped her in 2018 after they ended their more than a decade-long relationship. She also said Combs agreed to a $20 million settlement to settle a civil lawsuit. U.S. stock futures dipped overnight after the S&P 500 logged a third straight gain, boosted by easing U.S.-China trade tensions. The Nasdaq climbed, the S&P edged up, but the Dow closed lower. Real Madrid delay Barcelona's coronation as champions of Spain. Jacobo Ramon scores a 95th minute winner to snatch a 2-1 victory against Mallorca. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has said he does not want nuclear talks in Iran to take a violent course. In his visit to Qatar, Trump reiterated his commitment to achieving a peaceful resolution to Iran's nuclear program, stressing that the responsibility now lies with Iran to engage in negotiations.
You're also working with us very closely with respect to negotiating a deal with Iran, which is the far friendlier course that you would see. I mean, we have two courses. There's only two courses. There aren't 3 or 4 or 5. There's 2. There's a friendly and a non-friendly, and the non-friendly is a violent course, and I don't want that.
His comments came as Washington issued sanctions on Wednesday to target Iranian efforts to domestically manufacture components for ballistic missiles. Trump said he wants to see Iran thrive, and he is counting on Qatar to help pave the way.
And I hope you can help